lemon and biscuit, apricot, honey, and orange. All these great flavors that you can enjoy and have your moments with Delamere. All right, so no skill, 1 million people graduating every year. What do we do?
KCB to Jiajiri. That's the solution. Basically, go to the website, KCB Group/foundation. Apply for a career that suits you according to your heart, your desires. They will equip you. And after they equip you, they'll give you a kit. A kit. No. Kit.
Kit.
You know what a kit does? A kit is known for solving various problems that are specific to something. So if you have an engineering kit, it solves engineering problems, right? You have a math kit, it solves mathematical problems. But this kit solves business problems. And they've given it out to over 2,000 people, and you could be one of them, plus get capital for your business and join 35,000 other people who've been beneficiaries to this. All you need to do is go to KCB Group/foundation, and you'll be able to get all the information you need and then apply when they open their doors for the next cohort.
Fantastic. And also when you're making your business payments, when you actually do then open your business after you've gotten the skills that you need and you get the help and the support that you need, you've started a business now, and then you start to realize that you're going to start to need to make cross-border payments. You're going to make you're going to make payments as a business, or you're going to, wait for supplies on the other end, or you need to receive payments, Veto FX has the solutions for you. So you don't have to depend on the traditional slow ways of making payments. You don't have to rely on those traditional ways that are too expensive or where they have hidden fees or charges. You can say, you know what, we're going to go for this. Make payments to over 190 countries around the world in 49 different currencies, and all the information that you need about how you can get on this platform as a business, whether you're a small business, whether you're an SME or a large corporate company, you can do that. Go on to www.vetofx.com, and then CT, we buy a house and a horse, but we'll keep the horse for now.
You know the story I told you at the very beginning, the once upon a time story, which ended up with someone living happily ever after.
Yes.
Well, the neighbor to my friend has now heard the story.
Okay.
And he wasn't quite certain whether what I said was actually true. So for his sake, I'm going to repeat what I said.
Okay.
That, yes, you can get a mortgage. Okay? Yes, you can. That was his question. Can I? I said, yes, you can. But I'm not the one giving the mortgage. I just have information.
Okay.
If you want the mortgage, you need to go to Diamond Trust Bank. Okay? And the salient points are as follows. One, you can start by either visiting a branch near you or emailing them at mortgages@dtbafrica.com. And when you go to them, they will tell you the following. So I'm going to tell you the following so that you can confirm whether what I've said is exactly true.
Okay.
Yes. One, if you're a Kenyan, whether you are abroad or you are living within the boundaries of this wonderful country, whether you are employed or whether you are in business, you can be given a loan. In the diaspora, up to 80% of what it is you require. If you live in Kenya, up to 105%. Now, the interest rates are fixed. Fixed meaning it doesn't change. If it rains tomorrow, it doesn't get less or more. It's the same. Kenya Mortgage Finance Company has made it possible because that's a partnership that Diamond Trust Bank have with them. Now, they are also telling you this. Take a deep breath and listen to what is being said. There are no hidden charges. No funny charges out of the blues that, we said this, but, this happened, and then we were having to charge this. None of those. If you decide to pay early because there's a windfall, again, there are no penalties. Okay? Now, let me take you back to the beginning. To confirm all this, visit a branch near you or email mortgages@Africa, TTB, Africa.
Com. Fantastic.
Yes.
All right. So, those are the things to do. 1, 2, 3, get it done, dusted, go. We're having an IMF funding reserves economic conversation now. And our guest is in the studio this morning. Dr. Stephen Gashie is an economist, and we're talking about the impact of IMF funding on Kenya's economic reserves. That's the conversation that we'll have this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Gashie. How are you?
I've been well, and you?
I'm all right. Karibu sana.
I just told you off mic that the last time I was here, I didn't get the advantage to meet the gracious lady.
Oh, I thank you, sir. I'm very glad that you're here this morning, and it is a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure.
And let CT welcome you in proper Situation Room style with today's proverb, and then you can interpret that for us according to you, right?
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Gambia, the Republic of the Gambia. I like saying it because it is one of the few countries that are prefixed with the. See, there is not the Kenya or the Uganda or the Tanzania, but it is the Gambia.
Okay.
And everyone knows it to be the Gambia. Now the proverb, if a donkey kicks you and you kick it back, you are both donkeys.
Well, since I'm a Morimu, I'll borrow from what I normally tell my students. There is no long answer in my class. So I'll pull that to you when I say, if a donkey kicks you and you back, you're both
Donkeys.
Well, I think it's how you approach things and life. To me, it's how you interpret life and how, because you always believe in what you call cause and effect. So, depending on how you interpret a situation, gives you the impetus to go forward and how you look like going forward. Yep.
Okay. I mean, your interpretation makes sense. I think even as we go into this conversation now, this is coming off of the back of what we've seen recently, that the Central Bank of Kenya projects its usable foreign currency reserves to rise by 187.4 billion shillings this year, boosted by inflows from the IMF, enhancing the country's resilience to economic shocks. Using a lot of economic speak to basically say that, there's going to be money pumped in and this will allow the country to work on its development projects. Right? All right. So here we go into the conversation whereby the IMF is seen as a booster towards Kenya's economy. But is that really the case? Can you give us an overview of what international monetary funds actually do for the country's economy?
Well, thank you. I'll first mention what just spoken to KCB to Jajiri. And I love the shared value approach to solving social problems.
Yes.
The beauty about it is the Kenya becomes a startup country from a hustler country. And you look at the hustler model, it lacks the philosophy. Like what Tujajili has, which is almost a social enterprise and a shared value. So, had it borrowed that philosophy, probably would have had more success. So, I want just to celebrate what you just, because I was listening in.
Yes.
Now, we go to IMF and what we normally call the import cover. Because basically, when you talk about the reserve, you're talking about the country has import cover. However, I'll look in two ways. As we celebrate that we are backing up our reserves, we must ask ourselves, what is the source? And quickly, I would want to be a bit philosophical and I give an analogy, city. That in the village where I come from, old men will go drink and come home singing about their goats. And then, and they are fathers of sons. And those who have daughters will tell them, tell them, all your goats, we are going to take them away. Because you are going to pay a bright price.
Yes.
It's the same about our reserve. Because we get from IMF, and within 1-2 years, we are going to pay loans. If you look at our budget, about a trillion Kenya shilling, we are going to pay loans.
Yeah.
So as much as the political class, I see sometimes in their meetings celebrating how the economy is doing, the reserve has been bumped up, we must ask ourselves, where is it coming from? And what does it mean to our economy? Two things, very good that we have import cover, but we need to interrogate those numbers. One of them, why do we have a bumper reserve? One of them is that we're getting a loan from IMF. So we are going deeper in loans and debt obligations. Number two, what is that we are doing with the money? some of which maybe we are paying recurrent expenditure. Like the way I gave the story of the goats, a lot of it, 2027, we're having a maturity of loans and we are paying interest. So we need to interrogate and get to know where is the source of these funds so that we can celebrate our economic growth. If you look at it, it's a good feel-good factor, but fundamentally, it's sitting on quicksand.
How so?
Because look at where is it money coming from? Is it coming from agriculture exports?
No.
If you look at our manufacturing sector, we are told it is one of sector has the largest NPL, non-performing loans, because production is low. Manufacturing imports low materials, meaning we are not importing to produce. So that's why we have a bit of reserve. Is it a good thing? No. Okay? Are we getting this money from our cut flowers?
No.
No. Are we getting from tourism? No. So what does that tell you? A good thing to have reserve. However, the source, we need to work on the source.
So why is it a poor source if it's coming? Because it is lent money, essentially.
It's a loan.
It's a loan. So why is it not a good source that would then be an economic marker of progress or development?
For me, why it's not a good source is because when you borrow, you're borrowing, it's like digging a hole to cover the other one. I say it's a good thing, and even for political class, when they travel, they'll have some dollars for their per diem. We have a lot of it. But if you look critically, I think what we must interrogate and what should concern the central bank governor is where is our reserve coming from? Downstream, our G2G deal with petroleum and fuel is about 1 year, 6 months to pay. Meaning in the next 6 months, we'll have a huge payment for our supplies. The month of March, for those who are in corporate space, is when they'll be paying dividend payouts. Last year, there was a problem that a lot of people could not repatriate their funds back to where they are. I would be happy if we have a lot of dollars in reserve coming from foreign direct investments.
Okay.
What it means, when you have such money coming from there, is that we have money in our country and we are creating employment, because a lot of money, dollars, forex is coming through investments. Interrogate where we are. About 30 companies have closed. Others have relocated. Those are who are in manufacturing, maybe they were producing, meaning probably that is why we have this bumper reserve, because some of those who would have maybe produced or used the dollars to import. However, we say a loan is as good as what it's going to do. And I keep telling people that if Citi would borrow a loan and go and pay dowry, there's a problem.
What do you mean?
If he borrows a loan to go and
Pay dowry.
Marry a wife.
marry a wife, second or third, or even to celebrate the first
Our
one.
wife is an asset.
Oh, here we go.
So they are good.
To reap.
They are good. They are good and bad loans. So we need to do, if we borrow from IMF or bank and we go and do development, especially capex expenditure, which have a ripple effect to the economy, that is very good. But if you borrow, last year we had a Eurobond issued. Why did we issue a Eurobond? We issued a Eurobond so that we can pay, we can lest another loan.
Yeah.
So I think good conversation, but for me, I'll be concerned where the resource is coming from and what is that we are doing with the money.
We had our good friend, the deputy government spokesman, And we've had many politicians say today that the pain Kenyans have felt has resulted in us getting out of the hole we were in 2022, and we are now doing better. The dollar is at 129, and our debt crisis is essentially over. And for a lot of us Kenyans, macroeconomics, comme ci, comme ça, we don't know. And you look at, for example, projection of growth is at 4.8%. There's the fact that, inflation has gone down. So how do we interpret, and more specifically, the fact that the government now says that we are in a better place than we were in 2022? How do we elucidate that?
Well, sometimes I listen to the government spokesman, and I always say he's like, that Masai Dawa that cures everything.
Supposedly.
Hey, Masais were just chilling.
And it's usually in a 5-liter jerry can.
Yes.
So I think his approach to communication is that way. He cannot be knowing everything. And that's sometimes they fail to communicate. Because if you look at the fundamentals, macro, micro fundamentals of economy, when your inflation is low, should mean a linear relationship, the cost of living should be low. When your Kenya shilling or your currency is trading favorably against the major world currencies, it means then the cost of importation is cheaper. However, if you look at how we are and how we are seated, there is what we call an inverse relationship, where you put a positive, but the outcome is negative. And that is what the economists with government have not been able to crack. Simple. You cannot grow economy organically through taxation. It doesn't happen. Not in any other jurisdiction. Even in Kenya, it won't happen.
No, not on planet Earth.
Yes. We've never been to the other side. What is happening is that people don't have the purchasing power. Our per household per capita income is not growing.
It is shrinking, actually.
If you look at, and why? Same thing we're talking about why we are celebrating reserve. 70% of housing in Kenya, they rely on agriculture. So when you don't think agriculture, when manufacturing is not doing well downstream, value addition means we are not getting as much from agriculture, meaning people simply don't have money in their pockets. Sadly, a lot of politicians, sometimes economists in government, they want us to believe that the price of unga is a fundamental economic indicator, which is not. Someone will tell you unga is at 129. And even when it's at 129, there are people who are struggling to buy because they don't have money in their pockets. So even if all other economic, macro, micro, fundamental factors are showing differently, the reality of
It is immeasurable if the cost of living has not also dropped in equal or less measure. So what do you do to ensure that the numbers at which you see inflation falling is also represented in how, citizens are able to afford life?
You work on those sectors where people earn their money.
And do what?
Look at the informal sector. How much do they pay on late taxation and all that? That is the thing, that sometimes we are taking so much away from the common mwananchi or the consumer that he is not able to consume. And the economy grows through production and consumption. As long as that we don't work on our agriculture sector, we don't work on our informal sector, then we'll have difficulties to grow this economy. If you look at the manifesto, there were very good things that they meant to do that. Like sometimes, I don't know, I'll sound academic. There is what I call hypothetical brightness. Hypothetical, and I hope when Dr. Muruka comes, let him extend the theory, my theory. Hypothetical brightness is when you have a hypothesis, but you are bright to the key holding assumptions. Okay? For example, one of a hypothetical brightness is that the government, through manifesto, they talked about aggregation centers. So what was but they were blind to the key holding assumptions that you need people producing so that they can bring into your aggregation centers. Hasra model, another one, hypothetical brightness. But you want people to start a business, but the key holding assumption is that the environment must be light. For example, you give a young man 2,000 shillings, but for him to start a business in a county, he must pay a license, cost 9,000. Okay? Are we together?
Yes, fully.
Hypothetical brightness. We want to have 200,000 house through affordable housing, but you ignore key holding assumption that the government has a problem with absorption of resources. That is why they have about almost 400 billion in treasury bill and treasury bonds.
I need you to expound on that just a little bit.
I'm saying, if it's in the papers today, I think yesterday, that the hypothesis that they came with is that if you want to create employment,
Yes.
we need to have this affordable housing working. That
Yes,
is the
because people who are building, will get jobs,
Yes,
and
we have
such,
people who are doing the networks and everyone.
the plumbing and all of this.
Okay, so we'll have this army of young men trotting and walking to the working sites. That is the hypothesis. But the hypothesis is blind. That's why it's saying you suffer from hypothetical brightness when you are bright to the key holding assumptions, which are there, that the government has a problem with absorption of resources, even from the donor community, 30%. So until as when you work on that assumption, which is real, then that is why we have about 400 billion in treasury bills and bonds invested, because the program cannot absorb.
Okay.
Let me just read some facts before we go on break. So this is KNBS data, Economic Survey Population, 2023. So quick one, maize grew by the 38%, 2022-2023. Wheat,
maize production grew
Maize
by
production.
38%. Wheat production reduced by 16.1%. Rice grew by 19%, tea by 6.6%, coffee by negative 6.2%, and sugarcane by negative 36.9%. I know we're going to a break. Let me just get the manufacturing data. Structural metals 17% up, processing and preserving fish 16.2% up, manufacturing of sugar 15.0% up, motor vehicle trailers, semi-trailers assembly 21.7, 16.4, 15.3. This is 2023. I must be very careful to add that. When we come back, in real terms, because sometimes we see growth together with population growth, and then international market issues come into it, together with the ability of government to absorb its own budget. So that will be my question when we come back.
Okay, hold on to that and don't forget it, because you'll have that. And economist Dr. Gashia is with us this morning, and we're looking at, okay, so if you have reserves that have come from a loan, Do you really have reserves? Your reserves should actually come from money that you have made by manufacturing, by exporting, and FDI, foreign direct investment. We'll continue with that as we go along. It's time for that break with Delamere. Are you having the vanilla? It's real vanilla pods. Are you having the strawberry? It's real fruit. Pear caramel. You can also have the choco chips with real chocolate. Take that pit stop with Delamere, and you can be sure that whether you take a break from work, a break from studying, or have your breakfast on the go, you'll have an moment with the real fruit or the real ingredients in your Delamere yogurt at any outlets across the country today.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your
Some
day.
days just have you feeling, you're not.
Hi, and welcome to Shop.Digga, where we bring you the best deals in fashion, tech, think gadgets and gizmos, think kitchen appliances, think your Christmas movie, all in one stop. All you have to do is scan the QR code and shop till you drop. Remember, Standard Courier brings you all these goods that you buy at the convenience of your doorstep. We bring you the best deals, unbeatable deals this side of the Sahara. We are on TV every Saturday from 6:30 p.m. EU on Shop.Digga.
Find it real quick. Send it to the click. Wow, the place is sick.
We all know why we're all here. The mission is to attack.
Who are we attacking?
Creatives, TikTokers, Wahesh, skillpreneurs, Mastori, Vibe. Tuna finish kumalo, alafu tuna goda tena.
Halo, nimekuja na tangazo. Nilikutana na Kilimani, Nairobi, 2015. Sina kingine mimi najivunia.
DJ Magic E. Enjoy the music.
He has been close, yet so far. 5 unsuccessful stabs at the presidency. And now, he has gone continental with a quest to be African Union Commission chairperson.
I'm ready to serve.
3 candidates will battle it out. Kenya's Raila Odinga, Djibouti's Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, and Richard Randriamandrato of Madagascar.
One of us.
Will it be his last bullet? Watch the intrigues, the lobbying and the defining moment on KTN Live from Addis Ababa with Daniel Karaoke.
At 10 o'clock, 200 shillings a day or 500 shillings a month comes to 6,200 shillings a year. Now, imagine that's the kind of money that you would put aside to ensure that if a medical emergency did come up, you would not have a problem sorting that out. So you don't have to take a loan. You don't have to go to family and friends to raise money for you. You don't have to do these things, because what you've done is that you've put a little bit aside every day, and you can deal with these. So once you get into this putting away money, Jubilee Health Insurance says, you know what, we'll sort it out for you. We also have a telemedicine product whereby you can call our doctors. You have access to over 800 medical outlets in the country, and you also have access to free drug delivery and a host of other things. All you need to do is send the word health to 40643 or call 0709 949 000. Go to www.jubileeinsurance.com. 200 shillings a day, 500 shillings a month, and you can be sure your medical emergencies will be handled. This morning, we are continuing with our conversation with Dr. Gashie, an economist, and we're saying, okay, well, here we are. Are we loading on false hope? And Mark, go ahead.
Because you know the numbers and someone says you give me enough numbers and I'll show you whatever I want to show you. You've talked about the real GDP in terms of a GDP per capita. You've talked about putting into perspective what the government is doing. Now, my question is, there is signs of growth. They've even projected 4.8%. So that usually brings the question of kicking the can down the road. So we've borrowed 40 billion. Let's kick it down 25 years down the line, because we know by then we will have made money. Some countries have lived by that principle. Does Kenya have an emergency, or can we just kick this can down the road, you know, and pay it when those children are 35?
I think that will be postponing pain, isn't it?
Not only is it postponing pain, it's actually irresponsible, because there are other options available to us. We don't have to continue doing what we're doing. We don't have to. It requires a little boldness, and it requires a hell of a lot of discipline, but it can be done. And it certainly requires some very strict, serious leadership. It can be done. You see, the idea that we must keep spending on things which don't bring us direct benefits, and we borrow so that we can spend, you see the results. How do you expect the results are going to be different when you're borrowing and doing exactly the same thing? Yes.
You know why I ask this question? I ask this question because Kenyans must understand what the real issues are in this country that bring them pain. Because we've been told we need to pay more taxes because we are in debt distress, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We have been told that the debt distress is over, the economy is fixed, and all things will be rosy in 0.5 seconds, right? We've also been told that the economy is growing, right? We sitting at home, okay, we sitting in studio.
Yes, we're sitting there.
Yes, need to simplify the problems that Kenya has and not speak economic mambo jumbo that does not really address my pain point, and how do we bring that into perspective so that we can get to CT's point about the discipline and the economic culture that needs to change in this country.
Okay.
You know something, Mark? These things we keep throwing around at our listeners, economic growth, economic development,
Yes,
GDP.
yes.
These things are not complicated.
And that's exactly what we need to...
When we are making money as a country, it means there are things we are selling.
Yes. And others are buying.
Yes, and there are more people buying our stuff than we are buying from others.
Yes.
So it means we have more money because we're receiving more money from our goods. So when you ask, what is this growth that we see in the agricultural sector?
Yeah.
What you read doesn't paint that picture, does it?
No.
Because if you look at and I want to mention that our growth was reviewed backward from 5.5 to 4.9. What you're saying?
Yes.
Meaning, then we are not growing. We are not going to grow as projected. That was 2024. So if you look at 2025, there is nothing fundamental that you are doing differently. Unfortunately, let me go to the data that you just spoke to. If you look at the numbers, you talk about 38% growth in maize production. Do you see the money? Is there a bonus boom in maize growing areas, regions? No. And yet, you're still selling unga at 129 shillings or 120, and you're celebrating. Then we have a problem. Because what we are saying is that the farmer who is producing, the cost of production has gone up, but the price of maize has gone down or constant.
Yes.
Bring it down into small bits to say that farmer will not have money in the pocket. And what he'll have in the pocket, he cannot afford to consume beyond the basics. And when you don't, how does economy grow? Middle class expanding. Because other jurisdiction, middle class consume. And the last time I was here, we looked at, you walk around where you'd want to expect where middle class stays. But again, before I go there, I need to change the CS Bundy definition of a middle class, because he's flatly wrong. You cannot have a middle class.
Squarely wrong, flatly.
You cannot have a middle class who earns 60,000, between 60,000 and 100,000.
That's not middle class.
No, that's the National Bureau of Statistics definition.
Then they have a problem.
Yes.
If we borrowed from there, then the people who keep on data, because break it down, CT.
60,000.
If you are paying 60,000, you pay about, well, the minimum, 18,000
rent.
No, pay as you earn.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Tax,
start with the tax first.
Okay.
Chief Cha,
Yeah.
all those. So maybe you have about 40,000.
Yes.
Pay me maybe 15,000. Your rental. Put your lunch, commuter,
Transport.
School fees.
Negative zero. There is no middle class who will consume with a negative zero. So our middle class is not 60,000 to 100,000. We must build little middle class. Actually, that one is not even the lower middle class. So when go back to what I was saying, if you go to our Credentials, Lavington, where you'd expect middle class to stay, and there is a lot of spaces to lend, then there is an immigration to the other side of town where people are affording life. Are we saying then that other sector where you pay less is growing and this other one is not growing? So until we have the light, and what you say we need to break down to small bits, is that we are hugely agricultural driven country. So if you don't put money and strategies in agriculture, manufacturing for value addition, 80%, we are told by data, our informal sector employs 80% of our population.
Yes.
So if you don't give incentives for them to grow,
To continue growth.
if you tax them, if you put levies, meaning then, and I said when I'm starting, you cannot grow economy organically through taxation.
In fact, the opposite is what you need to do.
What President Kibaki did, and sometimes I feel uncomfortable when KK government compares itself with Moi Kibaki.
Yes.
I get constipated economically.
Economic constipation.
Economic constipation, because if you look at his model,
Yes.
his model, it was so different with the model today. And he did very simple thing. He stopped borrowing domestically. So when you borrow domestically, you get what you call crowding effect.
Yes.
No one will give me money because my risk of paying is higher than that equity bank.
Yes.
So the bank, the government will borrow from the equity banks and others. They will lend to the government because they know it will pay. Meaning the small individuals, small micro enterprise, medium, they cannot borrow. So that sector cannot grow. You cannot employ. You can, So I think there are simple areas that government must rethink the strategy on how you tinker the economy. It's simple. I don't know why it looks so difficult.
But this is the thing here, right? I think, you have the number crunchers at Treasury, you have the policymakers and the technocrats who understand these, fundamental principles that you speak of. If you are in an agriculture-based economy, you know the things that you need to do in order to move some base points. We also know, economists will tell you, just like you said, that you cannot, it has not happened anywhere that you grow an economy on taxation. Hasn't happened anywhere, progressively, at least not. So why then do we not see moves towards these other areas which we know will push up economic growth?
It's simple.
Manufacturing, industry, import, export. Why don't we see
Is the implementation. I'll go to KK Manifesto. They said that we are going to go to leather production. Do you know what it meant? That all those skins we sell low, you produce shoes, and because we have internal market, you have a Marshall Plan that the government sells to schools. So the Masai in Kajiado, in Narok and Samburu, he does not sell skin, he sells shoes.
Yes.
It is a theory of change, how you move from this situation to the other. So when people do not understand correctly the theories of change in every policy, in every whatever you want to do, that is the problem. There are a lot of thinkers, but we must start, the theory of change. And I'll go back to aggregation centers. Maybe Kiabu, Nyandarua. What do you start with? What do you celebrate? Do you celebrate building, or do you first work with upstream? So that there was a story. There was a story about we import about 300 worth of palm oil, but the Western Belt can grow, but it takes 7 years to mature it.
Yes, it does.
So show me one of a plant that is 3 years old. Zero. But we said that
we'll grow palm.
We'll grow palm, which is possible. But the implementation, the theory of change, you get our Zili, groundbreaking. Moses Kuria was all over the country, groundbreaking. When we celebrate immediate results, that's a problem, because the theory of change says we focus on the outcome. If it's Nyandarua, what is that you want to aggregate? If it's Western Kenya, cotton ginnery, for example, simple. We should be having now cotton growing because ginneries are ready. Then we produce shirts. Our army, we have our internal market, so that we have a Marshall Plan, so that people in Western Kenya, those old wazees, when they go to their locals, they say we sell clothes until we get the theory of change and we get there. This country will continue talking about the economy, poverty, people not have money in the pocket. It's simple. The implementers don't understand the theory of change and how to implement.
What you say, Doctor, is very interesting. 1% of Kenyans earn above 100,000. And that is really stretching it. One. When we look at that, and you said something very important about the definition of the middle class. What I'd like you to speak to is, how do you grow that middle class? Because every economic model that I have seen, the most important class of people to grow is the middle class. It needs to be your biggest bank.
But Mark,
yes.
We have seen, we have witnessed, we have lived the answer to the question you have asked.
Yes, we have. That's why I'm asking you guys to tell us.
We have lived it, because the middle class we speak of grew in that 10 years that Mwai Kibaki was actually president. It grew.
Yes.
And you know why
we
it grew?
it.
Not only saw, you experienced it.
Yes.
The moment financial institutions are hawking money, it means it is available. Hawking. Everywhere you turn, there's a kiosk.
Yes.
And you're being offered money.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Which means what we have now wasn't there. The government hadn't mopped it up. It was available. And they had to go back to their fundamental business. They were now selling money and hoping we would buy it from them.
Yes.
Right now, they have no such incentive.
Yeah.
So the banks will definitely grow in profit.
Yes.
The economy...
No matter how low the central bank pushes the number.
Yes, but what is the cost? The cost is that the country loses, the economy loses the growth that it could have had, because the activities that we, the Wananchi, have, which end up building this economy and bringing this growth that we have, will not happen.
I think City has spoken to it. The middle class, like what City has, we saw it during Mwai Kibaki, because the most important role of the government is to make conducive environment so that people can invest, do business, and thrive. So when that is not, for example, if you look at our political environment, and when we are talking about money, money hates noise. Even in the family.
Yes.
If you quarrel with the family, money will jump through the window, you won't see it.
True.
That's why banks are so quiet, when you go to the bank. If you look at our political environment, where we are today, people saying they are going to touch votes, others are saying all that. Show me one investor, local or foreign, who will have Kenya as preferred investment destination. So when we don't...
At the moment.
At the moment.
Yes.
And people now, the investors are saying, let's wait and see what will happen 2027. Meaning, our economic space is going to lose 2 good years where we would have attracted a lot of investors, where people who are in Nairobi are planning to open branches in Meru, in Kisii, in Kisumu. But people are saying, look, if you look at our political environment, and actually there's usually an inverse relationship with the economic environment because you want stability. So that's another factor the political class must be seized of, that when we start having a toxic political environment, means then we are not attractive to the investors. And when we are not attractive, means then we don't have people, we are not going to grow jobs, then we miss that forex we talked about.
So when we talk about FDI all the time, right? And this is one of the factors that we speak of here. So, I mean, we have all sorts of things in place already. You've got special economic zones in Kenya. You have the KIPES. You have what an entire ministry has put aside and said, by a certain year, we should have this kind of investment in the billions, into the trillions, actually. So what do they look for when they say, well, let's hang on for 2 years and let's not put anything, let's see what's going to happen after an election? What are they looking for? I would imagine that if you say we can come in and invest in palm, for example, do we even see any clearing sites where palm will be grown? There has to be some incentive that government would have taken or put in place for these investors to come in. And I'm thinking rudimentarily here, but what would they look for that Kenya is clearly not doing at this point that would invite it?
For investor, one thing where the first box you tick, you must have a predictable taxation regime. Okay? That is the first thing any investor will be looking at. That if I go to invest in this country, is the taxation regime predictable? Number 2, predictable political environment. For example, we have elections in Tanzania. Who knows? This year, isn't it?
Yes.
This year?
Yes.
Any noise?
Nope.
Well, I mean, the parties did their jigs a couple of weeks ago. But
ours is 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Then cost of production. How do we compare? If you look at cost of production, I'm talking about labor, energy, all that. How do we compare? And that's why you see the reverse is happening. We have a lot of companies, corporate manufacturing, moving to Uganda, Tanzania. And the other day, even the CEO of the country appreciated that Tanzania is overtaking Kenya. So what we need to do is that what are the basics Tanzania is doing so that we have that migration to there. So basically are those: taxation, cost of production, the political environment, that you are able to predict that when you bring money, when there is transition or otherwise, that you'll get your return of investment. And also, of course, whether you'll be able to repatriate your dividends, your earnings. Last year, there was a problem because we didn't have enough forex reserve that if you wanted to repatriate, you needed to wait to be allocated. So I think those are a few basics that are top of the head.
Seems like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And is it possible that if you get your ducks in a row that you can actually see a turnaround in a short period of time?
For me, I used to say we get our notes from the DPED 2025. Maybe 2027, we might have our notes out of the DPED, the notes only. The fundamentals look the same. Yep.
Okay. That's what the forecast looks like right now. If you continue doing the same things in the manner in which they've been done, then you're likely to get the same results.
Of course. Yep.
All right.
Just a general guidance to Kenyans. Given the economic situation you've explained, should we A, save, B, minimize spending, C, invest in the money markets, D, buy shares? What advice are you giving Kenyans moving forward on what we should do as we close the hour?
I normally say resources are always scarce. So live within your means. That's a first thing. That number two, if you can, get something you are doing alongside. If you're in employment, get something you are doing along. However hard it is, keep going. Number two, saving is good. Saving is good, however little it is. When it comes to investment, there are a lot of portfolios where you can save. What I normally say, for me, I discourage people to invest in debt capital investments.